Here's the bag of bones from the goats we just butchered. I'm going to be baking them now in the oven on disposable aluminum trays at 400 degrees until they're all nice and browned. Good. So I'm going to leave the bones to simmer all night. Right now I'm going to add some veggie scraps. It's mostly carrot peels. So that'll give the broth a really nice color and flavor. Decided to add some bay leaves and onions to the pot. Okay, so I'm getting ready to can the goat bone broth. You want to let it go at least 24 hours. This is the longest I've ever let one go. I started it Saturday at 2 o'clock. It's now Wednesday, 3:30, so it's on quite a few days, and it's looking beautiful color. The longer you let it go, the more calcium and other stuff you get out of the bones. So I'm going to strain all of the veggies and the bones out, see how much broth we actually have. I decided to skim off some of the grease first because there was so much of it. Okay, so I tried picking it up to pour it into this strainer to get the broth out, but that pan's way too heavy, so I'm going to start by ladling some out. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to dirty another pot. A lot more than I thought. So I'm going to double strain this. I use the big strainer to catch all the big chunks, and then I'll have to use the fine strainer. I'm going to start by taking the stuff I strained and put it through this strainer. So I have a little more liquid to get out of the bones and other stuff in here. All this, once it cools, will go to the chickens. They'll be so happy. They're little velociraptors. They love the meat. This is straining out. And then I'll pour that into the fine strainer, which caught all the extra stuff. I'm going to be ladling my fat into this jar through a strainer. I'm using the jar funnel to see if I can make less mess. Let's see. Switch spoons. I'm trying to get all of the fat from my bowl without getting the broth that's at the bottom. So I'm not actually canning this grease. I'm putting it in my fridge, but I do want the top to seal just so it lasts a little longer in the fridge. So I'm going to put it in the oven on low just to heat the glass and the liquid a little more because I want the seal to do its thing. Okay, so here's my final pot of stock. I'm assuming it's a 20 quart pot, so I'm assuming it's going to be 14, 15 quarts. Here's all the scraps. I have it still straining in case there's some liquid left in there. Probably not too much left, but whew, that was a lot of work. Make sure to use a towel if you're putting anything on plastic flooring. Last time I did this, my flooring was bubbling because I put the pan right on it. Bad choice. Okay, now that my whole kitchen is covered in soup and grease, just cleaned everything up, I'm going to have to start my canner up. I'm going to add 3 quarts of water and start it getting heated, and then I'm going to start filling my jars with the soup. And you can do 7 quarts at a time, so I'm hoping I'll get a full 2 rounds of 14. So for my setup using the induction stove, I have to use this steel plate so that the pan heats up properly because I did not buy the induction Presto canner. So they do sell an induction version. If you have an induction stove, try to acquire that one. So, and I have a rack inside on the bottom. We add 3 quarts of water. So I'm going to put the lid on. Make sure not to seal it. This, lining up with this, when it heats up, we'll seal it. So just put it on there so it heats up. I'm going to put it on high, get that water nice and hot, and I'm going to start filling jars now. So use your jar funnel, and I like to fill them to the bottom of the neck. I take most of the grease out, but I leave some in there. A lot of people say that grease makes them spoil. I haven't found this to be true, but I also rotate through my canned goods and use them. Try to use them within a year, 2 years max. 3 years I've done and it's been okay, so. Use your discretion on that, but I haven't found that a little grease does anything to it. Also, my marinara jars have the olive oil in them. I had an issue. These jars are hot, so if your hands are sensitive, use the jar lifter. So this was the rib and spine bones of 5 young goats. All the leg bones are still intact on the meat because I'm going to use them as bone-in roast this year. I'm just filling 7 jars at a time so that I can leave the remaining liquid in the pot to stay hot. So when I fill the next jars, it's going to be hot. There's no need to add salt or anything else. If you want to flavor it ahead of time, you can. I prefer to flavor it when I'm cooking, so. White vinegar on a paper towel and wipe down all the rims in case any super grease got on there, and then I'm going to put the seals and the rings on. You want to tighten them, hand tighten, but not too tight, or they'll buckle the lids. I prefer the ball lids, but if you're going to go off-brand on Amazon, try to get the thickened lids so they are less likely to buckle. I liked this one. Here. Last one. More grease than I prefer to have. Usually I have about half of that, but I didn't mix it very well when I was scooping it. So if you want less and have all the jars even, just mix it every time you scoop it. So my second batch is going to have a lot less oil on it. Okay, I'm going to lower these into the pressure canner now. I am going to use my jar lifter because that steam is wicked hot. So if you're doing pints instead of quarts, you put the metal rack on top and you can do a double stack so it'll hold 14 pints. Now I'm going to put the rack on top of them and I'm going to close the lid. So it's going to start venting steam very strongly out of this hole. You want to let it go for 10 minutes before you cover that. I'm going to use this wobble weight when the time comes. Put it on there. And then you wait till the pressure seals and you let it build pressure. And once it's at pressure, which in this case and most cases in my area will be right in the middle at 10, which is what this is set for, to keep it at that pressure, then you start your timer. So I get the times for my pressure canning out of this book, and for any of the meat broths, process quart jars for 25 minutes and pint jars for 20 minutes. So once we get to pressure, I will process my jars for 25 minutes and then let it fully cool before I open it. So my canner's been venting for 10 minutes. Putting the wobble weight on, and it's gonna go for 25 minutes after it hits pressure. So I need to wait till it builds to the 10 and then set my timer for 25 minutes. Okay, so my canner is at pressure. I'm gonna go set my timer for 25 minutes. My timer just went off, so I just turned the heat off, and I'm gonna wait till it depressurizes. This is at 0 and this is down before I remove the wobble. Okay, after the pressure went down, I waited 10 minutes to remove the cover after removing the wobble weight. All right, take this out. All right, I'm gonna remove the jars using the jar lifter. Okay, here are the first 7 jars. They're gonna make popping sounds for a while. I've never had one do this before. It's going in and out, in and out, in and out. So hopefully that one seals. They're gonna be boiling for a while. Don't touch them for a day. Let them seal. And when they're done, they all should be sucked down. You shouldn't be able to have the cover pop. This one right here is gonna buckle. See how it's raised there and there? And it's fine, as long as it seals, it's still usable, it's still storable. But I do try to use them first when they buckle, just because. But I haven't had them fail on me. They last as long as all the others will. But so I ended up with 1 more quart of broth than I could fit in the canner. I don't tend to run the canner unless I have 5 or more, because it takes a long time and it's a waste of energy. So this one's gonna go in the fridge for future meals. Also, these Chinese food container soup Tupperware are really good for freezing. But if you're freezing, make sure to leave a little more headspace so they don't expand and make a mess. These didn't take too long to seal. I believe they all sealed. I'm not going to touch them till tomorrow though. And the one that buckled isn't actually too bad. You can see the 2 raised spots. So the second batch of cans just got to pressure. My husband's watching them while I do chores. It's now 8 o'clock, so make sure to leave plenty of time when you do this canning between separating out the broth from the bones and canning it. It's been 5 hours and I have another 25 minutes of processing to do. Aww. Good job, Alice. They're beautiful. You good mama? Yeah, I'm putting it back. Yeah? Good mama. Let's see what a chicken looks like when their feathers are growing back after molting. Ew! Poor lady. Okay, I'm here to get the eggs. Excuse me. Excuse me. I have a feeling I forgot to collect eggs yesterday. Oops. So with the last round, you can let them go overnight. It doesn't matter how long it takes to cool off. It's actually still warm. I'm gonna take the jars out now. They all sealed, perfect. That's weird. So one of the biggest threats to it is if you let it cool off too quickly, they siphon. So the liquid will actually come out of the jars and then the grease gets in the seal and they won't seal. So after all the work, you might not have jars that are shelf stable, which is annoying. So definitely don't rush the cooling process. And they're still warm. So thanks for joining me on this canning adventure. We'll see you next time.